Since the very first shipment that I sent into Amazon, I've used exclusively credit cards to make my purchases. Real quick, let's just like blur this lower half of the screen, because so far I've used 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different credit cards for Amazon, and this one I just recently got from Capital One, and I want to talk to you the reasons why this is the exact example of a credit card that you should be using for Amazon FBA. Pretty much any reselling business or business in general, if you want to be extra smart about not only helping your credit, but also making a little bit of tax-free money for yourself. We'll put a little asterisk over there though. But first, we need to talk about the benefits of just using credit cards over cash in your business. I really need to stop doing this because I have to blur so much crap when I do this. Now I'm just gonna hate myself in the edit. When it comes to spending money for your business, you can be tempted to just use cash, especially if you were like me initially in the very much no debt Dave Ramsey camp. But using business credit in the form of credit cards, I think has 3 main benefits, and I'm gonna put these credit cards back so I stop waving them around. The first major benefit is that it can help you build your credit. There are ways that it can hinder your credit, especially if you're maxing out your credit cards for your business, but the more credit that you have available to you and the less of it that you use, the higher your credit's gonna be. And for me, having now like 7 or 9 credit cards that I have in my name, that's a lot more credit, and I don't use all of these now. I've used them all at some point, but now I try to focus on only using 2 or 3 at a time, and I've just upgraded into better and better cards based off of some of the things that we're gonna talk about, and which is the reason why I just got this credit card recently here. I don't feel like I need to 100% explain exactly why you should be building your credit, because I have talked about that in other videos before. If you want me to touch more on personal credit, I'd be very happy to do so, but it will end up making your life a lot easier when you're looking at going and buying houses, or even just getting approved for some of these nicer cards. And it can even help you get business credit, because a lot of times if you don't have an established business credit, you're gonna have to pull from your personal credit history so they can see that you're at least trustworthy enough to pay everything back personally, and then they'll give you that business credit card, which is what happened with our first business credit card in our business. The next major benefit is actually more important though, and that is that it can help you to increase your purchasing power so that you can scale your business a lot faster. Especially in a reselling business, you're going to be limited by the amount of money that you have available to buy inventory. So once you learn the skills of sourcing and have good rules for what you're going to source, you just need more money because there's so much inventory out there to be found. This was a major key for me because starting out, I only had like $500 from flipping shoes on eBay, and that's when I started with credit cards, not only because the credit cards I was using had some of the things that we're going to talk about, but also for the fact that I only had $500 and I couldn't scale my business in 2 months to be at a place where I could quit my job, which is what I did because I was able to use credit cards and leveraging them for higher purchasing power. Though this can be risky, and you don't want to do this unless you have a proof of concept on a business, you know that you're going to be able to make money from it, and know that you can pay off your credit cards without paying any interest. Because even though I've been doing this for 18 months and I've used tons and tons of credit cards, I've never paid a dime in interest on any of them. And one of the things that can really help you with this is the fact that when you're using credit cards, you have a much longer time to pay them back than if you're just using cash. Also, have you guys had Dutch Bros coffee? We had it for the first time here. We're in Flagstaff, Arizona. It's pretty decent, but they don't have normal coffee, just Americanos. That's really weird. Kind of a fan, but our van is just too big to go in the drive-thru, and normally they're mostly drive-thrus. So luckily we found one that you could just walk into, but you normally have a longer time when you're paying off credit cards. Let's draw this out real quick. When you're working with credit cards, you have a few important dates. You have the purchase date, obviously, that's when you buy the item. You have your statement date. And normally you'd be like, oh, on my statement date, that's when I have to pay everything back, but it's actually not. You also have your payment due date. These 3 things make it so that you can have up to like 50 plus days to pay back a purchase that you make. This is all going to rely on when the statement date is, because if the statement date, let's say right now it's March 31st, let's say the statement date is April 1st, just to make everything easy. Normally, after the statement, you have 20 or 21 days to pay off your statement balance. So the payment due date would be April, let's just say 21st, make it easy. And the good thing about this is everything that happens between March 1st to March 31st, which is before April 1st, is going to be owed on this statement. And you have to pay it off by April 21st. Meaning, if you make a purchase on March 2nd, you have from March 2nd through April 21st to get that money back to yourself so you can pay it off by April 21st, which gives you, I think it's 50 days, which is actually a good thing for Amazon. Because if you watch some of my other videos, like the life cycle of inventory, how long it takes you to buy an item, ship it in, and then actually get money back out of it, it's normally about 30 to 35 days, meaning that if you buy something on March 1st, you'll be able to have that money back in your bank account plus the profit before you have to pay it off in the 50 days. Obviously, this doesn't always work because if you buy it on March 31st, you still have to pay it off on April 21st, so you only have 3 weeks. But no matter what, you don't have to have the cash in your account at that moment. You get at least 3 weeks to pay it off. Just make sure that always you're paying off at least your statement balance. Otherwise, you'll have to be paying interest, and we don't like paying interest. But there are some ways that you can get around that. And we'll talk about that here in a second, which is one of the main reasons why I got this credit card for my business. Oh, baby. Of course, that's too low. This is high and I am short. So quickly, let's just break down why this credit card is so good for me and why I'm excited to be using it now for my Amazon business. Also, the reason that I just got it now. The first reason is because of its intro bonus. Now, this is on a lot of credit cards, and I will give you a few credit card recommendations that I've personally used before that I like that fit all these criteria. But an intro bonus is when you get a credit card and they say, hey, if you spend X dollars, we'll give you X dollars just in free cash back or points. And you could essentially use that for whatever you want. And so for this card, it actually has a really low intro bonus, low barrier to entry, I mean. you get $200 if you spend $500 in the first 3 months. And if you're selling on Amazon, you know you're gonna spend a lot of money. That's the beauty of being in a reselling business. If you're buying a lot of inventory, pretty much any intro bonus that you might want, you'll be able to get, because over a 2 or 3 month period, you're spending thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on any of these cards. And so that $200 is essentially just free money that I'm gonna be able to get to use for whatever. Recently, we've been way overspending on food, so we've been using it for that, which is really disappointing. In an ideal world, that'd be used for like vacations and stuff. You can obviously get cards that don't have intro bonuses, and that is something that I would be willing to sacrifice on for the sake of this next thing that we're gonna talk about. But honestly, normally you won't even need to, because most of these cards will have both of these. And the second one is an introductory 0% APR on purchases. Now, it's very important that I specify purchases because there's 2 different types of 0% APR. One is on balance transfers, meaning that you take a balance from one card, send it to another card, and they won't make you pay interest on any of that balance, even though you still have to pay a fee. The other one, which is more important and pertinent for us as Amazon sellers, is a 0% interest on purchases, which is what I have on this credit card. It's 0% for I think 15 or 18 months, but that means that anything that I buy on this card with I think a $5,000 limit, I won't have to pay any interest on, even if I hold a balance, which is how I've been able to, over these past 18 months, always carry a balance on my credit cards, but never pay any interest at all. So if you find a card that has an intro bonus where you can just make money for running your normal business, and then also has 0% on any purchases that you make for 12, 15, or 18 months, then the next thing you might want to look for is whether or not the card gives cash back or points, and if it gives a good percentage on all your purchases. If you're new to credit cards, cashback is whenever you buy anything, the company will just give you cash, 1.5, or 2% on all the purchases that you make. But essentially, you want to see if your card will give you money just for spending money, because a lot of them will, and I wouldn't want you to settle for one that doesn't do that when you could just as easily get another card that does. So for instance, this card gives me 1.5% back on everything that I'm going to buy. This new Wells Fargo card that I have gives me 2% back on everything that I buy. Some of these come in the form of points, some of them come in cash back. Honestly, they're pretty equivalent to me because I haven't seen a major bonus in getting points rather than getting cash back. But sometimes it can work, like on some Chase cards that I have, like this Chase Freedom Unlimited, which was one of the first ones that I got for my Amazon business. Sometimes you can like pay yourself back or redeem points and get a little bit extra instead of just what the cash back is. Those are pretty specific cases, and normally I don't take them up on that and I just get the cash back, but points can sometimes be more beneficial. One of the things that you saw as well is that I have multiple credit cards, not just the one. That way I can even get a longer time period from when I need to pay off some cards, because maybe one month I make purchases on one card and then the next month purchases on the next card. But mostly if you have 0% interest cards, you won't need to worry about that too much. Is this starting to rain on me? There's like one cloud in the sky. But if you are interested in having multiple credit cards, here are my 3 basic recommendations, which I pretty much have already showed you. The first one is the Capital One Quicksilver card. This one did take me a little bit longer to get approved for than the other ones, though I might have applied for it earlier. I just try to apply for one card every year. The second one is the Chase Freedom Unlimited, and the third one is the Wells Fargo Active Cash. Those all have at least 1.5% back on everything that you buy. They do have intro bonuses, and they have intro 0% APRs on purchases. I'll leave a link to all those that I can in the description that you can help support if you do want to apply for any of them, but please feel no pressure, especially if you're not comfortable using credit cards. And one question that I'm sure that at least some of you guys will have is about the fact that these are personal credit cards that I'm using for business. I do have a business credit card, which is the Chase Inked Unlimited. It's pretty much the Freedom Unlimited just for business, and I would recommend that one for a business card, but you don't need to use business cards for your business. I would talk to a tax professional about this, but essentially you can write off everything the same as you would with a business credit card. You might want to make sure that you're only using that personal credit card for business expenses though, and have different ones for your personal expenses, just because that way there's that separation for you. Accounting wise and tax wise, you might have to do some things that are a little interesting, but it's very possible to do, and as long as you have a tax professional, you shouldn't have to worry about it at all, or if you just look into it for another couple hours like I did at the beginning when I was doing this. And the last big tip that I have with using business credit cards for your business is to do credit card rotation, meaning that you're not only spending money on one card and paying that card off, but if you have multiple cards, you'll be able to actually scale your business faster while paying even less interest, because you'll give yourself even more time to pay it off. And I explained that whole process in this video, but if you don't even have credit cards yet, watch this video, which I made a couple years ago, showing exactly how I was able to get approved for 2 of the 3 cards that I applied for without having any credit at all before, and the tricks that I used to get that done.